I was sitting on my bunk in Kuwait at 3 in the morning staring at my phone screen. My wife had just sent me a photo of a positive pregnancy test. My heart exploded with joy, tears rolling down my face. We had been trying for 2 years, but then my mind started doing the math. I had been away for 7 months already. I pushed that thought away immediately. I trusted her completely, and what I discovered next broke me in ways I never thought possible. Before we continue, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in a small town in Texas, the kind of place where everyone knows your name and your business. My father, Harold, worked as a mechanic, coming home every evening with grease under his fingernails and a tired smile on his face. My mother, Linda, was a nurse at the local hospital working night shifts to make sure we had enough. We were not rich, but we had each other. Derek was my only brother, 4 years younger than me. From the day he was born, I took it upon myself to protect him. When he was 7 and some older kids tried to steal his lunch money, I got into my first real fight defending him. When he struggled with math in middle school, I stayed up late helping him study, even though I had my own homework piling up. When the time came for college applications, I was offered a basketball scholarship to a decent university, but the family could only afford to send one of us to school properly. I gave up that scholarship so Derek could pursue his business degree. I told myself that was what big brothers do. At 22 years old, I enlisted in the Army. It felt like the right choice. I could serve my country and send money back home to help with bills. Every month, a portion of my paycheck went straight to my parents. I never complained. I never asked for anything in return. Family was everything to me. I met Megan when I was 26 during a 2-week leave back home. It was at a local bar called the Rusty Nail. Nothing fancy, just a place where working folks went to unwind. She was sitting alone at a corner table wearing a floral dress with her brown hair tied back in a ponytail, reading a paperback novel. Something about her radiated peace. In a room full of noise and chaos, she was an island of calm. I walked over and asked if I could buy her a drink. She looked up at me with these warm hazel eyes and smiled. We talked for 4 hours that night. She was an elementary school teacher patient and the type of person who believed in the goodness of others. By the time the bar closed, I knew I wanted to see her again. We dated for 2 years, mostly long distance with video calls and letters. I proposed to her during a camping trip in the hill country. Nothing elaborate, just the two of us under a sky full of stars. She said yes before I even finished asking. Our wedding was small, held in my parents' backyard. About 40 people, mostly family and close friends. Derek was my best man. I remember hugging him after the ceremony, both of us with tears in our eyes. He whispered that he was proud of me. I believed him. When I received orders for a 12-month deployment to Kuwait, Megan, and I had only been married for 8 months. The night before I left, I asked Derek to check in on her from time to time, help her with things around the house, keep her company so she would not feel so alone. He put his hand on my shoulder and promised me he would treat her like his own sister. Those words meant everything to me at the time. The first few months went smoothly. Megan and I would video call almost every day. She would tell me about her students, the funny things they said, the small dramas of school life. Sometimes Derek would appear in the background waving at the camera making jokes. It made me happy knowing she had someone looking out for her. But around the 4th month, things started to change. Megan began calling less frequently. When we did talk, she seemed distracted, always saying she was tired from work or had a headache. I told myself she was just stressed. Teaching is exhausting. I was probably overthinking it. Then came the night that changed everything. Sergeant Thompson was one of my closest friends in the unit. His wife Emily lived in the same town as Megan. They had become friendly occasionally, meeting for coffee. Thompson approached me one evening with a look on his face that I will never forget. It was the look of someone who had to deliver terrible news. He handed me his phone without saying a word. On the screen was a photograph of Megan and Derek in a parking lot outside a restaurant. They were embracing, and not in the way a sister-in-law hugs her brother-in-law. Their bodies were pressed together, her head on his chest, his arms wrapped around her waist. I felt my stomach drop, but I made excuses. Maybe it was just a friendly hug. Maybe she was upset about something, and he was comforting her. Thompson shook his head slowly and swiped to the next photo. This one showed Derek kissing Megan on the lips right in front of my own house. The world around me went silent. I could not breathe. I could not think. I mumbled something to Thompson and walked out of the barracks into the cool desert night. I stood there alone, staring up at the stars, the same stars I had proposed under, and I felt something inside me shatter into 1,000 pieces. 3 days passed before I could bring myself to confront them. 3 days of barely sleeping, barely eating, replaying those images in my mind over and over again. Finally, in the middle of the night, Kuwait time, I called Megan on video. She answered, looking sleepy, confused by the late call. I did not waste time with small talk. I told her I had seen the photographs. At first, she tried to deny it. She said I was misunderstanding, that it was just a friendly moment caught at a bad angle. Then I described the second photo in detail. The kiss, the location, my front porch. The silence that followed lasted an eternity. Then she started crying. Between sobs, she confessed everything. She and Derek had been sleeping together since my 3rd month away. She blamed the loneliness, the long nights alone, the fear that I might not come back. She said Derek was there for her when I could not be, as if that justified anything. I asked her the question that had been burning in my gut since I first saw that pregnancy test. I asked if the baby was mine. She went quiet again. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said she did not know. After the call ended, I sat motionless on my bunk for hours. I did not cry. I could not. I just felt hollow, like someone had reached inside me and scooped out everything that made me human. The next day, I called Derek. He answered cheerfully, asking how I was doing, if I was staying safe. The audacity of his casual tone made my blood boil. When I told him I knew about the affair, his demeanor shifted. He went silent for a few seconds, then had the nerve to say that it just happened that neither of them planned it. I asked him how he could do this to me. I reminded him of everything I had sacrificed for him. The scholarship I gave up, the money I sent home, the years I spent protecting him from every hardship I could shield him from. His response made me sick. He said that I was the one who chose to leave, that I was the one who abandoned my wife for months at a time. He actually tried to blame me for his betrayal. Then he dropped the final blow. He said the baby might be his and that I should just accept reality and move on. I hung up without another word. Desperate for some kind of support, I called my mother. I told her everything, expecting outrage on my behalf, expecting her to condemn what Derek had done. Instead, she said something that knocked the wind out of me. She already knew. My mother had known about the affair for weeks and had chosen to say nothing. She said she was waiting for me to come home so the family could handle it quietly. Then she started making excuses for Derek. She said he was young, that he made a mistake, that I needed to find it in my heart to forgive him. She reminded me that family comes first, that brothers should stick together no matter what. My father took the phone next. His voice was stern, like he was lecturing a child. He told me not to blow this out of proportion. He said that even if the baby was Derek's, it would still be their grandchild, still family. He actually expected me to accept my brother's child with my wife as some kind of package deal. I ended the call feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. I thought about all the years I had put my family first. Every sacrifice, every dollar sent home, every opportunity I passed up so they could have more. And now, when I needed them to stand by me, they chose the person who had stabbed me in the back. I submitted a request for emergency leave that same day. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane heading home. I arrived at my house after midnight. The spare key was still hidden under the same fake rock in the garden. I let myself in, quietly moving through the dark rooms I had once been so proud of. Then, I saw Derek's shoes by the front door. I did not go upstairs. I did not want to see what was happening in my own bedroom. Instead, I sat down on the living room couch and waited. I watched the darkness slowly give way to the gray light of dawn. When Megan came downstairs that morning, she was still in her robe, half asleep. Derek was right behind her, shirtless, comfortable, like he belonged there. They both froze when they saw me sitting in the shadows. Megan's hand flew to her mouth. Derek's face went pale. The silence was deafening. I looked at Megan's belly. The bump was visible now, pushing against the fabric of her robe. Evidence of a betrayal I could not ignore. I did not yell. I did not throw things. I simply told them both to get out of my house. Right now. Derek started to argue to make some excuse, but I stood up slowly, and whatever he saw in my eyes made him stop talking. Within 20 minutes, they were gone. I watched from the window as Derek's car pulled out of the driveway, taking with it the last remnants of the life I thought I had. A week later, my father called to inform me that a family meeting had been arranged. He expected me to attend. He said it would be held at their house, the same house where I grew up, where I learned to ride a bike, where I had so many happy memories that now felt tainted. I almost did not go, but something inside me needed closure. I needed to look them all in the eyes one last time. The living room felt smaller than I remembered. My parents sat on one couch, Derek and Megan on another. I took a chair by the door, deliberately positioning myself for an easy exit. My father started the conversation. He talked about family unity, about how blood is thicker than water, about how we needed to resolve this privately and move forward together. My mother nodded along, occasionally dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Then she turned to me directly. She said that I needed to forgive Derek, that holding on to anger would only hurt myself, that a real man knows how to let go of grudges. She actually used those words. A real man. Derek sat there looking uncomfortable, but not truly remorseful. Megan kept her eyes on the floor, occasionally sniffling. Neither of them offered a genuine apology. They only expressed regret at being caught. Then came the proposal that made my blood run cold. My parents suggested that I forgive everything, take Megan back, and raise the baby as my own, regardless of who the biological father was. They wanted me to pretend none of this had ever happened. They wanted me to sacrifice my dignity, my self-respect, everything I had left to preserve their image of a perfect family. When I remained silent, my father's patience ran out. He raised his voice, calling me selfish, asking if I was really willing to destroy the family over something he called minor. I repeated his word back to him. Minor. My brother slept with my wife. She might be carrying his child, and he called it minor. Derek spoke up, then doubling down on his earlier blame shifting. He said I had to accept some responsibility for what happened. He said that no woman could be expected to wait alone forever while her husband played soldier overseas. My father agreed with him. Out loud, in front of everyone, he said I had chosen my career over my marriage, and now I had to deal with the consequences. That was the moment everything crystallized for me. I stood up slowly, keeping my movements calm and deliberate. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a folder I had been carrying with me all week. I told them I had heard enough. From the folder, I produced the divorce papers. I had already signed them. I handed them to Megan and told her to add her signature. I did not want anything from her. No money, no assets, nothing. I just wanted out. Then I turned to my parents. I told them that they wanted me to forgive, so I would forgive. But forgiveness did not mean I had to keep people in my life who had shown me exactly how little I meant to them. I told them I was leaving and I was not coming back. I pulled out a letter I had written and read it aloud. In it, I formally cut all ties with my family. I renounced any claim to inheritance. I stated clearly that I no longer considered Derek my brother, that I no longer considered Harold and Linda my parents. The letter was dated and notarized. I had made copies for everyone. The room went completely still. My mother was the first to react. She jumped up screaming that I could not do this, that I was the eldest son, that I had obligations. My father's face turned red with anger. He slammed his fist on the coffee table and told me that if I walked out that door, I should never come back. I looked at him calmly and said that was exactly my intention. Derek tried one last desperate appeal. He reached out calling me brother, begging me not to do this. I told him I did not have a brother, not anymore. As I walked toward the door, Megan ran after me. She grabbed my arm, tears streaming down her face, pleading with me to reconsider. I gently removed her hand from my sleeve. I told her that she had made her choice a long time ago. Now I was making mine. I walked out of that house without looking back. I got in my car and drove away, watching the building shrink in my rearview mirror until it disappeared entirely. That chapter of my life was over. The first few months in Colorado were brutal. I had requested a transfer to a base where nobody knew my story, where I could start over without the weight of pitying glances and whispered gossip. But physical distance does not heal emotional wounds. I spent many nights alone in my small apartment, staring at walls, unable to sleep. Memories haunted me, not just the bad ones, but the good ones too. The day Megan and I got married, the sound of Derek's laughter when we were kids, Sunday dinners at my parents' house, all of it felt like a cruel joke, now happiness built on foundations that turned out to be rotten. Some nights, I questioned whether I had made the right choice. Walking away from everyone, cutting every tie, it was extreme. Maybe I should have tried to work things out. Maybe I was being too proud, too stubborn. But then I would remember my father calling the affair minor. I would remember my mother defending Derek. I would remember Derek himself blaming me for his own betrayal. And I knew I could never go back to people who valued appearances over my well-being. Everything changed when Uncle Ray reached out. Ray was my father's younger brother, a Vietnam veteran, who had always been the black sheep of the family. He and my father had not spoken in years due to some old disagreement I never fully understood. But somehow Ray heard about what happened to me, and he picked up the phone. His voice was gruff but warm. He told me he had gotten the whole story from a cousin and that he was proud of me for standing up for myself. He said most people do not have the courage to walk away from toxicity even when it is killing them slowly. For the first time since discovering the affair, I broke down completely. I cried like I had not cried since childhood, letting out all the pain and anger and grief I had been holding inside. Ray listened without judgment, without trying to fix anything, just letting me release what needed to come out. A few weeks later, Ray flew out to Colorado to visit me. We spent 3 days together talking fishing at a nearby lake, just existing in comfortable silence. He shared his own story of family rejection, how he came back from the war a changed man and found that the people he loved did not know how to love him anymore. He told me that blood does not automatically equal loyalty, that real family is built on mutual respect and genuine care. He taught me something important about forgiveness, too. He said forgiving someone does not mean letting them back into your life. It means releasing the hold their actions have on your heart so you can move forward. You can forgive and still choose to protect yourself by keeping distance. Those words became my guiding principle. Slowly, I started rebuilding. I threw myself into my work, earning recognition and promotions. I began seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma, working through the complicated feelings of betrayal and loss. I started running every morning, feeling my body grow stronger as my mind gradually healed. I made new friends, genuine connections with people who knew nothing about my past and accepted me for who I was in the present. I joined a veteran support group where I met others who had faced their own battles both overseas and at home. We lifted each other up. About a year after my fresh start, I met Sarah at a charity event for wounded veterans. She was a volunteer organizing care packages, laughing easily with everyone she met. There was no dramatic moment of connection, no love at first sight. We simply started talking and found we enjoyed each other's company. Over months of friendship, something deeper grew. When I finally told Sarah about my past, about Megan and Derek and my family, she listened without flinching. She did not offer empty reassurances or try to play therapist. She simply said that my past did not define me and that she was interested in the man standing in front of her, not the ghost of who I used to be. 2 years after I left Texas, Uncle Ray called with news. Megan had given birth. A DNA test confirmed the baby was Derek's. They had gotten married in a small courthouse ceremony, but according to Ray, the relationship was already falling apart. Turns out that a bond built on betrayal does not make for a stable foundation. My parents had apparently started expressing regret. They asked Ray to pass along messages hoping I would reconnect. They missed me. They wanted to make amends. I listened to this news and felt something surprising. Nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no longing, just a quiet peace. I told Ray to let them know I wished them well, but I had no interest in reopening that door. It was not about punishment or revenge. I had simply built a new life, and there was no room in it for people who had shown me who they really were. Standing on my apartment balcony that evening, watching the Colorado sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple, I reflected on everything I had been through. I used to believe that family meant unconditional loyalty, that blood ties could never be broken. I learned the hard way that some bonds are not worth preserving, that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones capable of hurting you the deepest. But I also learned that walking away is not the same as giving up. It takes more strength to leave a toxic situation than to stay and suffer. And in leaving, I found something I had lost somewhere along the way. I found myself. I no longer carry hatred for Derek or Megan or my parents. Hatred is too heavy a burden, and I refuse to let them weigh me down anymore. I have forgiven them in my own way, which means I have released the grip their betrayal once had on my heart. But forgiveness does not require reconciliation. Some doors once closed are meant to stay that way. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not to fight back, but to walk away. And in walking away, I found something I had been missing for a long time. I found peace, I found freedom, I found a future worth living. If you have made it to the end of this story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved to protect yourself? How did you find the strength to do it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is going through something similar right now. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with others who might need to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss more stories like this one. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Whatever battles you are facing in your own life, I hope you find the courage to choose yourself. You deserve peace. You deserve respect. You deserve a life free from those who take your love for granted. Take care of yourselves and remember your worth is not determined by those who fail to see it.